Hello, welcome to this special edition of At Home with Manish Chokhani. We are at the Flame University campus, which is spanning 80 acres. Nikunj and I thought this would be the best place to do this special edition on the occasion of Diwali. And the reason why we are here is, we believe that home is where the heart is. And while Manish's home is in Mumbai and his heart is there, a tiny bit is in investing in education.
Very much.
And contributing to society and also, helping and guiding students. Right, Nikunj?
That's right. But Manish, first,
thank you for being here.
Diwali.
Happy Diwali to you and to you as well, and all the viewers.
Yes.
Thanks for being here.
It's a lovely
great campus.
It's a lovely campus. So last time, Tanvir, I actually happened to come to this campus about a year ago. And Manish, last time when we were here, we were talking about the importance of how liberal arts and finance, which technically is maths and science, they can coexist. A lot has changed, and the recognition of that kind of an education now seems to be getting more Indian in nature also.
That's right. So a bit like we spoke last year, that education in India typically was very siloized, the way the British left it and went, because they really wanted to produce what we think of as an army of clerks, that you read, you memorize and you reproduce. And at least I grew up in the old SSC system, and once you graduated from school, you had to choose at that tender young age whether I wanted to go into commerce, arts or science. And life doesn't come neatly packaged like that. And as investors over the years, we realized as well that there's a lot of behavioral psychology involved when you're dealing with managements. There's a lot of technology involved when you're dealing with disruptive change. There's a lot of, obviously, finance and accounting is the language of business. You need to know that. So unless you have a multidisciplinary approach to life and you're aware of everything which is happening around you, you will actually not end up as a good investor. And that came about in education as well, as the world changed. In school, you are seeing this now in IB education, where they are making a lot more focused, smaller classrooms, a lot more practical-based, learning. So similarly over here, you could come here and in theory be doing a major in economics and doing a minor in theatre. And there's absolutely something which a CEO is effectively a person who's going to articulate to his employees, to his clients and all of that. So if you can really, like you do now in the US as well, that you do, you can learn computers, you can learn theatre, you can learn psychology and you can learn business, all in the same place. Why should one be so narrow cast?
Which is what I was trying to understand. This is a format which is more seen overseas. So,
Absolutely.
You're kind of bringing it in, giving this opportunity to students in India. Because a lot of them don't want to go abroad, right?
And if you think of even the leaders of India today, they've benefited from that. I give the example very often of, say, Anand Mahindra, who studied filmmaking at Harvard.
Nikunj was mentioning.
And Ratan Tata himself, he studied architecture at Cornell, and of course he's running the largest conglomerate, in the Tata group. So similarly over here, that's what one is trying to provide to students. And it is Nimish Bhai's complete philanthropic, give back to society. And all of us who are part of the NM family have obviously got involved. All of us are at what we call one stage in our life, when you give back to society. Well, I turned 50, so almost getting there.
But it is much needed, I have to say.
Very much. We need 50 institutions like this, not just us.
And also what I was very intrigued by was the fact that you're, having these tie-ups with foreign universities. So you're trying to get the best of both worlds. In India, in our homeland, which is, I think, so incredible.
That's right, and we're very happy because what we're finding here is a lot of parents, for some reason, don't want to send their daughters abroad. So we're ending up with a 55% female student ratio over here. We're getting students from all over India, of course, and then through these tie-ups, which we are now, building out very rapidly, we're able to give them at least one exchange term overseas. So we have a tie-up now with Newfield College at University of Oxford, which is where Dr. Manmohan Singh did his PhD. So very, very reputed place for social sciences. And you can get your behavioral finance and all of that embedded into your course over here. We have a tie-up now in place with Babson in the US if you want to do education, entrepreneurship. It's very cool for a lot of Indian kids going there. They could do it from here as well. The best ladies college, Wellesley, which is where presumably the next US president comes out of. Hillary Clinton went to Wellesley.
Yeah.
So that's like the Harvard for young ladies to go and learn.
True.
So that's in place now.
So this Diwali, for those who are not planning to invest in equities, are they making a mistake?
Well, equities in India is something which, as a young country, when you're 24, 25 years average age, I mean, it's just the
He
most
keeps talking
obvious
about
thing
age
you have
again
to be
and
doing.
again. I don't know why he's pointing towards me or he's pointing towards you, Tanvir. I don't know.
Well, think of it. The index we started in 1980 as 100, and here we are, 35 years later, and it's closer to 30,000. You don't get that kind of wealth appreciation in any other asset class. So while our memories stick to the price of the flat we bought or the piece of gold we bought, the fact is equities have outperformed all these asset classes over any 5-year, 10-year period that you want to pick up. Because reality is that businesses make money and they're living organisms and they produce cash flow. Whereas a dumb asset which doesn't actually produce cash flows will probably never ever keep pace with that. And India being the last really big growth market in the world, because if you think of all the OECD countries, we can think of them as the governments are bankrupt, the central banks are bankrupt, the consumers are over-levered, so there is no growth. This is the last big country of 1 billion people with growth available to them. And if you're not participating in that growth, which is really possible only through equities, what are we really doing?
When you talk about growth and we look at quarterly earnings every 3 months, how are you mapping the trend on that growth which will fuel equities further from here? Because it's not really coming as per plan.
So, well, there are 2-3 structural issues there, and you've got my sore spot, because in India we've had this thing of tendency of aping the West and following old economic theory. And I think the heart of the problem in India is that unless you get per capita income levels up, you will not get consumption up. And if you don't get consumption up, you will not revive the investment cycle. And just by way of example, I remember 1998 when we compared China and India, we both sold about 1 million cars each. Here we are 17 years later, China has gone from 1 million cars to 22 million cars. India is stuck at 2.6 million cars for the last 4 years. And you can just look at it very easily and say this is because per capita income has stagnated. Also, it's not just that the market size is 8x. The price point of the car, which in India is the average price is, let's say, a Maruti Alto. The average car in the world and in China is a Toyota Corolla. So even the price point is probably 3 to 4x. So you have possibility of a 20x expansion in our markets, being held back because we want to keep depreciating our rupee. We follow this great interest and inflation differential argument. And I find it strange in a post-2007 world, when if the whole world has collapsed and gone into deflation, these guys will never get inflation. And they will constantly be fighting against recession by printing money. And ordinarily, if you print 20-30 trillion dollars, your currency should have collapsed. But what's happened is our rupee has gone from 40 to close to 70. And we're going to keep depreciating, and yet our exports aren't going to pick up because you don't have the capacity and the productivity gains happening over here. So it's some structural changes are required. And you're right, that's what's holding back earnings over here, because you just aren't getting the demand.
But Manish, if I look at how this Samvat year has gone, we are openly using the word zero interest rates now. We've seen a strong recovery rally in emerging markets, especially commodity-based emerging markets, and you got big slowdown which is now visible in global sectors, at least Indian IT and pharma. So is the market leadership changing now? Is there something which we need to be watchful of? India was always gaining ground because of IT and pharma. That wheel now seems to be reversing.
So it's fair, and I just take you back very quickly to 1972 when we broke the gold standard and Bretton Woods came about and dollar became the peg. Ever since that, the US dollar has actually been printing without the world realizing the game which is going on, and that led to bubbles in every decade. So in the 70s you got this bull market in gold, silver and oil, which culminated in the peak of 1980. Then they had a 20-year bear market in those asset classes. In the 1980s it went to what was then emerging markets of Japan and Taiwan, and they were between 12x to 20x in that decade. Then, as you know, Japan has been suffering for the last 25 years. In the 1990s, we got the tail end of that through the Harshad Mehta scam, but promptly collapsed. But the 1990s then became the era of TMT, which culminated in the Nasdaq of 2000, 2001 peaking out. And The Nasdaq's only now started surpassing the previous high. So the 2000-2010 period was the era of commodities and bricks. And much as I hate to say it, the fact is it is a bear market for commodities and emerging markets. What we are seeing are counter trend rallies in beaten down asset classes. So last year, Diwali to Diwali, Brazil, steel, these have been the best performing markets and sectors. But it's not like they are in bull markets. They are counter trend because they were so beaten down, and you're not getting a bull market there. Similarly, Indian IT, which in the 1990s was a sunrise sector, or our generic pharma, which was a sunrise sector, it's also facing its own disruption. So if you think of it in 2000, 2001, I think Infosys, I recall, was a 20-25 billion thereabouts, was the peak market cap. At which point, basically Apple really wasn't a mainstream company. It was probably under 15 billion. Well, Steve Jobs had just come back, but they hadn't yet made anything. Amazon was just a gleam in the eye. And Google wasn't yet born. Today, these three companies alone have a market cap of $1.5 trillion.
Which is more than our
Just these three, which is more than our combined market cap. So there are changes in technology, and it's like how IBM has now got deflated. Yeah. And IBM is a $150 billion market cap. So also with Indian IT, that they have to reinvent themselves, and at least the leaders in TCS and Infosys are very much what I call in the mold of people who can remake their companies. The price points are interesting. So while there are structural issues, I think it's a bit like how metals and materials were last year. They're beaten down a bit too much, and you might well get a counter trend rally.
So next year, if we come to Flames, we could be discussing outperformance in IT. Like right now, we're discussing outperformance.
It's possible
in
because I don't think last Diwali anyone was taking a bet on steel and aluminium and Vedanta and Hindalco and stuff like that. But they've been the best stocks.
No, it's interesting you say that metals are just kind of adjusting to having come out of a really oversold zone. So you're not buying into the commodities revival?
Well, the big counter rally is over. I think you've got the 100% gain. I don't think from here you're going to make 100% more. They're still great businesses. I mean, Nikunj and I were talking on the way here. In terms of profit pools, if I take the material sector, the big listed ones, there's a $18 billion profit after tax in that space. After all the hype and hoopla about our IT and pharma, IT profit pool is about $9 or $10 billion. The entire pharma sector profit pool in India, largely Sun, Lupin, Aurobindo, is about $3.5 billion. So this whole globalized India, knowledge India is at about 12.5, whereas the old India, which is metal and oil and stuff like that, and Reliance alone is $4.5 billion, just to put in context. Our entire banking industry, BFSI, listed market cap has a PAT of some $11 billion.
Manish, you've always made a point that every market cycle will create new sectors, a new breed of, new league of entrepreneurs. Now, there is a bit of a shake-up which is happening in the e-commerce space. It's not easy to raise money and, create market caps now. Right. So what's going on there? What do you think will be the sunrise sector in this leg of the market, and where do you think big wealth will be created?
So I'll separate the two from a stock market perspective. Obviously, leadership will, I think, stay with financials and consumer discretionary like autos and durables and stuff. From a private equity perspective, I think there's two challenges. In the world, because it's gone ex-growth, everyone and his uncle has been pouring money behind technological innovation. And the 0 to 1 companies, which have gone from a concept to creation of something new, have happened in the West. And you're seeing this play out in companies like Uber and Airbnb, which are conceptually new ideas.
And they are adding to productivity.
And they add to productivity, but they don't yet make money. They still lose in excess of $1 billion a year. So it is entirely PE funded, and it's a bit like 2000, when you could not explain valuations that's happening in the private equity world. The issue in India is that we are not doing 0 to 1 companies. We are doing 1 to N, which is take the proven model and try and repeat it and scale it here. So you will copy an Amazon with a Flipkart or a Snapdeal. You will copy a Uber with an Ola. You will copy an Airbnb with Ola, what rooms is it? Oyo rooms.
Oyo rooms.
And therefore, you're not getting those kind of dramatic multiples in a market where, as I said, the consumer is still, in terms of profit pool, very small. I don't know if I mentioned the whole FMCG, durables, retail, put all of it together, the profit pool is $5 billion.
You mean to say if somebody puts in HUL, Colgate, ITC,
all of it together, the total PAT of the whole sector is $5 billion.
That's it.
That's it. And Reliance
China's
is 4.5.
done it differently though.
China figures are dramatically large. I think that's the point, that if you stay at $1,500 per capita, you're going to remain poor with this mythical consumer coming. When you get to $5,000, there's magic. Like the Chinese market, like I said, the car market is 20x.
Yeah.
The Indian auto profit pool, including Tata Motor, is 6 billion. So if you remove 2 billion of Tata Motor from overseas, the Indian auto industry produces a PAT, including Bosch and other ancillaries, of $4 billion. So what are we talking of this billion consumers?
Should I feel happy that we have a long way to go,
Think
or
of
should
it
I feel
as,
sad that we are not going anywhere?
Well, half glass empty, half glass full, right?
Every 3 or 4 weeks, both Tanvir and me, we discover a new sector. Sometimes it is chemicals, sometimes it is agrochemicals. Right now we are talking about ancillary companies. What's going on? I mean, these sectors, they always existed. Some of markets are recognizing them right now. Do you think there's a mania in small cap stocks?
So I think, Nikunj, like I said, if you got the big structural bull market in the 2000s, which was commodities and EMs, and you're going through a bear market structurally for commodities and EMs, and you're getting a counter trend bounce over there, in that money basically rotates, because you're not creating a big bull market where currency, stocks, all asset classes are moving in the same direction. You don't really get a bull market till the currency starts appreciating. In that context, you rotate from sector to sector. So while the theme 2 years ago was quality, consumers, last year, as you realize, the counter trend became, because consumers got overdone, it went back to the cyclicals in commodities.
So what could be the next counter trend?
So I still think you'll find it in the discretionary bit this year, because you do have the 7th pay commission, you do have a falling interest rate scenario, you do have the GST coming in, which makes the organized sector look cheaper optically to the unorganized sector. I think you will see a lot of stuff happening on the discretionary side. And from a sectoral perspective, like I said, things which are beaten up and ignored, they tend to perform. So it may be IT, it may be PSUs, because first time the magic word of privatization has been uttered. Oil marketing companies are large companies getting very low valuations. We all hate PSUs. They may end up privatizing a BEML or NCC. I know we just did the repeat follow-on offering. Interesting companies are out there. So there's no dearth of bottom-up opportunities in India. So while we keep waiting for this big glorious bull market on all asset classes and the currency, in the meantime there's enough to construct a portfolio of 20-30 stocks for any reasonable investor.
So the Manish Chokhani, I know historically has taken cash calls. When you've not liked market cycles, you've gone on 90 to 100% cash.
That's right.
In terms of positioning, as a commitment, as a private investor, what are your commitment levels right?
So actually, it's not a market where you get out today. Okay. It is driven by liquidity. The earnings, as you said, are not there. It has been driven a lot by multiple expansion. But then you have to go sector to sector in the hunt for relative cheapness till the day there is this money spigot getting turned off overseas. In the meantime, domestic investors have discovered equity. You're getting, I think, $6 billion came into domestic equities this year. Whereas the net inflow from FIIs this year has been of the order of some 7 odd billion. You're finding a strange dichotomy in the market where money comes into mutual funds, largely in the mid caps, whereas the insurance companies are selling what they have, which is largely the large caps. So you're finding the large caps not performing, the index optically not going up, and so-called mid cap mania happening. But it is rotating from sector to sector and stock to stock. So it's not the same thing going up year after year 100%. And I don't see that trend changing in a rush right now. And the other thing I'd like to say, Nikunj, is that in a country where we are at an average age of 25, 26 and a $2 trillion GDP, the next $4-5 trillion of GDP lies ahead of us. As youngsters, while it's great, we should be investing in equities, we should also be going and building our own businesses. And if I had to advise my son today, who's 22, it's go out and build a business. Investing I can take care of for the next 10 or 15 years, which is what he's going to do. There is a business I'd like to talk to you about where I'm deeply involved as one of the 3 partners. We think we'd make big social impact, big consumer impact, not just in India but across the world. And it's things like that which our youngsters should be doing as well.
Well, welcome back to this Diwali special edition of At Home with Manish Chokhani. And as promised before the break, we have a surprise for our viewers. Manish, what is it? We're looking at, well, it seems like a filter to me. I don't know. Describe it, tell our viewers.
It's a fancy van right now.
It's a concept and a business which I'm very passionate about. It started as CSR. We found this inventor who's created on textile a technology which creates nano knives by just coating the textile fabrics. Through that technology, any germ or bacteria or virus which comes into impact with the textile is exterminated instantly. And the applications therefore are just mind-boggling. We've created out of this water filters, we've created out of this sanitary pads for women, reusable because reusable, washable. You can do with this disposable wipes when you wipe your surface like a Purell. If you just use it instead as a handkerchief, you could do it. It goes into hospital gowns. In the hospitals, you realize in the operating theatres, maximum contamination is caused by germs in the operating theatre.
That's true.
If you use fabric coated with this, you get rid of all of that, and it's reusable and washable. So very low cost, impacts millions of lives all over the world. So we've already started distributing through CSR. It's installed in railway stations. What I'm showing you here is a truck which Anand Mahindra put together. This goes to disaster areas where, for example, in the Chennai floods, we could take this truck there, put one end of the pipe into dirty, muddy, contaminated water, and at the other end you got drinking water. It's gone into Srinagar, it went into Nepal during the crisis there, but the usage is beyond that because it now sits in schools, hospitals, universities, railway stations. 15-16 million people already impacted with something like this. And you put, for example, I'll show you the pit over there where you'll pick up really dirty water and it goes through all our various loops. Yeah, let's go around.
So that's where you have dirty water. It goes through the funnel, it goes through the pipe.
So let him. He can look in if you like. If you see how dirty this water is.
Oh my God!
If you can just maybe peek into that. Completely brown. This is how bad the water is, and it's probably got germs and mosquitoes and everything flowing around.
And after the
it will
process,
flow
it
through
comes
this
here.
pipe into the tank there.
Okay.
And as you know, we have the traditional way you'll get rid of the mud and sediment, then the carbon filter which gets rid of the odor.
It's good to go after.
Then the arsenic or whatever you want to remove from the groundwater, and then the E. coli or the bacteria or the viruses all out. And this is actually proven already in disaster areas. That water became this. And again, from that pit, that's the water which you're able to get and drink.
You're sure about drinking it?
We should try it. We got Mr. Bachchan. We went to Mantralaya, showed it to the CM. Mr. Bachchan was kind enough to drink. Ratan Tata was kind enough to drink and promised
Now is Manish
to
Chokhani
support.
kind enough to drink.
Here's CM Fadnavis. So anyone who sees it is blown away. The first reaction is it's too good to be true. And the reality is it is something transformative.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/etnow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at etnowlive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/etnow.